Another episode of Bend, Break, Burn, and Blow. We just finished an episode of what worship is and barely, as you said, pricked the why and a little bit of the how. But this one is why. So why do humans need to worship? And we talked about, God is the only being worthy of worship.
Yep.
And we talked about nature inevitably, instinctually, just through its own life and death, worshiping God. But why humans? And we talked a little bit about like what that looked like and how we were doing it a little bit. But I think we barely, and all of these are going to be barely scratching the surface, but I think it's a surface worthy of scratching because it will force people to really think about, okay, what am I doing? I'm not pressing go on my timer, so I can't know if this is 10 minutes or not.
Yeah.
So why worship?
Yeah, because he said so.
That is, I mean, when that's true,
Right.
absolutely, right, through his word. But it's also maybe one of the more frustrating answers that you can give as a parent.
Mm-hmm.
Why is that? Because the kid wants to know why, and you're like, because I said so.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so the answer, how that fleshes out for kids and for us, incidentally, I think is exactly the same. That it starts with, because I said so, and it ends with, I don't even have to say so because you know so already.
This, and knowing more than just knowing intellectually, like
Right.
Intellectual assent, but knowing by showcasing it through your actions. It's an intrinsic outpouring of who you are now.
That's right.
I just worship the Lord who is worthy of worship.
Yeah,
that's it.
And so it's interesting. There's a lot of different like little threads.
Yeah.
In my head right now, but that, God never gave the 10 commandments to the animals. Okay. Yeah. They're doing what they're doing. And when it is appropriate them for the creation, besides man, when it's appropriate for the creation to obey God, it does so unquestionably. Right. So the winds, the waves, rocks, the sun, donkeys, whenever it is according to the will of God, that they should do exactly what he wants them to do, that may be contrary to their nature.
Yeah.
It happens.
Yeah.
But the rest of the time, things are happening obviously according to the will of God, but what looks to us to be kind of a program, what we would say instinct or the physical laws of the universe or whatever, are just running. But the interaction with man is different than that.
Yeah.
God has commanded for man to do something that is contrary to its nature all the time. And you're saying because of the fall, right? That's right. So we're already entered, not the beginning of creation with Adam and Eve, but now. Well, right? Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and so, okay. I mean, all of this.
I just wanted to,
all of this
for the audience more.
That I've said is there's some presuppositions there that you would believe that there was no death prior to the fall and animals didn't eat each other prior to the fall. And that they're not commanded not to eat each other, and things of that nature. Yeah. They do what they do. But then when Daniel's in the den with lions that, according to their nature, are going to eat people, they don't. And that's a command from God to act. God's will. Yeah. Different, not according to your nature.
Yeah.
Right.
And the lions aren't asking why.
The lions don't ask why.
They're just doing it.
They just do it.
Yeah.
Right. And so, but the interaction with man in nature is different than that.
Yeah.
And obviously that's from the beginning. And we could dig into sacrifices and the keeping of the Sabbath and all of those things being from the garden, right?
Yeah.
From the beginning, we're doing this, but then it's all kind of distilled then Moses at Sinai, the giving of the law, and 10 commandments, thou shalt have no other gods before me, right? That's the command. That's the worship command.
Yeah.
That you're going to worship me and you're not going to worship these other gods, these other things.
Or even have graven images,
right.
Of me.
Of anything.
Or of anything else.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Nothing in heaven or on earth.
Yeah.
And so the why worship is interesting because we're the only ones here who are supposed to know that answer. No one else has to know that answer.
Yeah, because they just do it.
They just do it.
Yeah, it just happens.
You could say that because you could say because they just know it, right? And so they know that they're doing their own thing, and then when it's time to worship, right?
This is a rabbit trail that we don't need to go far down, but I do have to ask what your thoughts are. So if a lion ate from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, would the lion also then have to make this choice, be in this same rebellion difficulty? I don't know.
Yes.
I mean, I really don't know. But yes, I would.
I'm going to go on record and say yes.
Yes. Okay, cool. Anyway, so I digress. Back to what you were. I apologize.
That's
if I threw you off, but
no,
it's good.
I am that lion. We are that lion.
Oh man, we are.
No, and so the why then is downstream of the command to worship and is integral to man's relationship with God, God's relationship with man, and
why wouldn't even appear if it wasn't for the situation that we find ourselves in.
That's right. That's right. Why is directly tied.
So good. Yeah.
To
so good. Write that down.
Us.
If you don't have a pen, remember that.
Yeah. Tattoo it on your arm.
No, don't do that.
Curse of liberty. And so the why worship is I think not just tied to, well, it's not only tied to God's omniscience and omnipotence and all his having created everything. It goes a lot deeper than just, well, God's the best.
Yeah.
And so worship.
Yeah. Yeah, that's just one of way too many, right? Or one of many attributes, right?
That's right.
Greatest conceivable being, greatest being, both and.
That's
yes. Right. That's awesome. But wait, there's more.
Yeah. There's the rest of the catechism. It's not just who is the first and best being.
Wait, when you say catechism. No, well, that's another show for another time.
All of the rest of what is God is the why that demands the worship.
Yeah.
To include his decretal will.
That's right. To include his decretal will. And when you say, and so I think a lot of people think, demands of God and they think of it, they think about it, unfortunately, like an immature child demanding something that is undeserved.
Right.
But no. Because of this character, there can be no other way but to worship.
Right.
Like it's antithetical to all that is and all that I am, as God says, right? To not worship.
Right.
Right. And so that is why we worship.
That's right. And so it's so much deeper than God, like you said, God saying, well, I want to be worshiped, so you better worship me.
Yeah,
it's like, no, if you don't worship me, you die. I am the sustainer.
Yeah.
I'm holding the molecules of your body together. And if you force a separation from that sustenance, death is the outcome of that.
But then the atheist is going to jump in and be like, well, that obviously that's your why, but that's ridiculous because I don't worship God and I'm not dead.
Yeah. We finna find out.
Yeah.
Like, let's hold on.
What is, well, but then let's define terms. What is death?
Sure. Right.
It's like, yeah, sure, physical death, but then what about that spiritual death?
Right. And so I would say that physical death is the least of our
concerns. That's and especially if we're looking at eternity.
That's right. And so I was having we were talking about with Kristen. We were talking about Christian Science, the Church of Christian Science, and some different stuff like that.
Yeah.
Somehow we got worked around to, and I talked about this in that Psalm 22 sermon about what is. Oh, that's what it was. It was about that Psalm 22, and Christ on the cross and the wrath. What is the wrath? What is death? What is the separation? And what is the blessing? And how does Scripture portray it over and over and over again that we don't know what the death is? We've got these word pictures that give us the sense of what death is outside of the camp. Death is the separation
of teeth.
That's right. Weeping,
eternal fire.
Weeping. Death is separation from God. Blessing is the beatific vision, his face shining upon us, peace. The death is the opposite of that. Death is wandering off into the wilderness, right? Scapegoat, all of that. And so we don't have a firm hold on what is hell, what is death, what is that final death, that separation from God. All we know is that the union with God through Christ is the best, and the other is the worst. And we don't want that. That's not what you want. And so digress back to why worship. Is because the separation is the logical and necessitated outcome of not worshiping. That separation is what comes after not worshiping. And so digress even farther, back to the analogy of the children and why God has set up the family, marriage, federal husbandry, and children, covenant children, and all of that, for us to be able to grasp and comprehend our relationship with him. And so that when a parent tells a child, do this, you must do this. When a child's young, it doesn't matter if you explain it to them. You can explain it to them, but
most likely they won't get it.
They cannot comprehend it.
That's right.
And even if they attempt to comprehend it, what they are operating off of is because I said so. That's right. Right. And so even the most well-behaved, well-intentioned, and thoughtful child who is attempting to understand the father's love for them.
That is the most intelligent at their age.
That's right. And still trying to comprehend that they can't, and they're operating off of because I told you so. And only through relationship. And incidentally, that obedience is an act of worship. To God the Father. That's right. And he rewards that with knowledge and understanding. Right. And that relationship. And life
that's long upon the land that I've given you.
That's right. That's right. The first commandment with a blessing.
That's right.
And so then through that increase of knowledge and understanding and wisdom and love in the relationship, then the child comes to know that the obedience to the Father is sustenance, is life-giving, and that the Father's commands are for the good of the child. And so then by learning that as a child, you grow up into an adult that understands that the commands of the Father are life. And knowing that, you understand that the life giver, worship is integrally tied to the giving of life. It's the thank you after being handed something, or it's the giving honor to whom honor is due, right?
Or it's the immediate obedience,
right,
with a positive attitude to the request or the command or the direction,
right. And it's the drive to replicate that in your surrounding, right? And so that kind of starts to encroach on the worship is warfare part of things, because not only is it the duty and it's owed and it is the glory to the Father, but it's also the taking of ground, because you want to, just like a child wants to show people how great their father is, right? And they want to esteem their father to other people. That is another aspect of our worship, that we are not only giving honor where honor is due, but we are also esteeming our Father before the nations. Right. And through that, that's why you do your good works, so that men will see them and honor your Father in heaven. Right. They're a testimony to the goodness of God.
So that's perfect segue transition to the next show, which is how, right? So doing is part of how, and worship is warfare is part of how, and
that's right.
In all this. So we'll press pause there and then jump into a new show. So if you are listening to this, the next show is coming out soon. Bend, break, burn, and blow. And again, for those that maybe just be hopping on, have just hopped on,
you'll be hopping on.
Bending, breaking, burning, and blowing is what God is doing to his people, us Christians, us Christ followers, us disciples in Christ, to purify us, to sanctify us.
That's right.
That is what the bend, break, burn, and blow. If you're like, what is that definition? What is that? Or what is that title? There it is. And so into how do we worship?